Hi, welcome to the Manuela Method. Today I am joined by Sally High. Sally High first started off as my therapist, but I really think that the universe has a way of connecting people that is just beyond our titles, beyond our labels.
Yes.
And I feel you were one of the first people, I think, that I really understood the term of like finding your tribe.
Yeah.
Or like finding your people where I just feel like I instantly recognize you as a sister.
Yeah.
And I think that's the closest I can come to it.
The second I met you had this energy that just came off of you. And I was like, I'm on this girl, boy.
I'm like, it wasn't anxiety and pure fear of existence.
I mean, I've been doing this for 22 years, and when a spirit like you walks through the door, I'm just like, yes.
You're like, she's mine, dibs.
We're so close. You're right at the brink of ready to just wake it.
Oh my gosh. Which is crazy because now that I am at, I think, at a different point in my spiritual journey,
right.
I see that in other people.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's
I'm just
beautiful.
like, I'm like, you're
it's
right.
Like an A, like it's cracked.
Ready.
And you know that you don't have the permission to open it. We're not granted permission. But when it starts to crack and they ask for maybe a little sign, then you can get on in there.
You can ask just the right question.
Right.
And then when they internalize it, the best is just being able to be around when that egg hatches
like,
and you're just
one
like,
on our side, we got another one.
Yeah.
Another
Like, you did it. And you're like, get ready. It starts all over again. It's like, oh, now that you think you got it, get ready for the other work to start.
Right.
So on that topic, I think that we are at an age where spirituality and psychology are really coming hand in hand.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing because I think spirituality is making a lot more sense to us, as a society, as a humanity in general.
People just don't believe in religion anymore. They just don't believe in Orthodox religion. It's just something I feel that more and more people are awakening to and realizing that all of them lead to the same thing. All lead to love. I mean, look at all of them.
Honestly,
all the religions point to love, and we're killing. So we're still killing over wars over this. And so I'm not knocking Christianity or religion, whatever works for someone else. But the idea of spirituality, people think it's just woo woo or whatever. But it's the understanding of one consciousness, one love, the ability to see all as yourself. As I see you, you see me. We are one consciousness.
Yeah.
There's no separation.
And the beautiful thing about that is that there's different levels to our spiritual journey, to our spiritual intelligence. And we can embody those messages and they can mean different things to us throughout our journey. Yeah. And obviously when you get to like the Gandhi level of spiritual enlightenment, you're going to embody that oneness in a whole different way.
Right. That's Christ consciousness.
Right.
There's really no need to be here anymore.
You're like, right. Literally, that's when you can just retreat because you know that this is just
no identification with the body.
That's crazy.
Amazing.
I was just like, that's amazing. I'm like, that's crazy. Yeah. She's like, I'm ready. I'm like, I'm still scared to astral project, girl. That's a whole nother topic that I want to get to. But when it comes to these levels, I think that the cool thing is that we now, through psychology, have a way to reverse engineer spirituality, or vice versa, where if we can't embody the thing, we know now that we can talk our way into becoming the person that believes it.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it's like, if you don't embody, the lessons of spirituality or the universal laws, you can still begin to understand them by just practicing them until they feel right, until you understand why you're doing it. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like faking it till you make it. But I think now it's more
with meditation. I tell a lot of my clients, I'm like, just fake it till you make it. You may not like it, but just try it and just try to get 20 seconds of meditation is not to have no thought. It's to be aware of the thought, the observation of thought, of the mind. So when it drifts away, you pull it back. But that's one way to teach, is to practice. It's fitness.
Yeah.
It's spiritual fitness, and that's really what it's about.
And that still is a higher level of conscious awakening. Like once that translates very directly, because once you're at a higher level of spiritual awakening, you don't feel the sense to intervene into life. You do stand back and become the observer in life, in reality.
Actually becomes really funny,
and
light.
Oh, everything feels like a movie.
You see everyone like a child with a blindfold on running into walls.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh boy. You're like, and then
you're like, I want to help you.
Parents, all those wonderful things. Where we looked at our parents, on a pedestal. And knowing they did their very best, but you're like, we're all just children. We are all 8-year-olds running around. And the first person to be able to take the blindfold off and be like, whoa, is the winner, is the one that starts to awaken and say, what is going on? Yes, I was conditioned. Who I think I am is who everyone has told me I am. That's Sadhguru made that comment. And I remember hearing that. Who I think I am is who other people have told me I am. And it hit me like a brick, and I thought, do I have any original thought of my own? Do I have any
original identity?
I was told you were this, you were that, sit here, do this, be that. And I was just a construct of all the conditioning and programming. So the stripping, if you're brave enough to do the work and you want to go higher, then you have to face the dragon, do the shadow work, and I was about to say it's fun. Sorry for me, but it's necessary, but it's what brings ultimate peace.
It is, and I think that a lot of us are chasing after temporary highs.
Absolutely.
And then once you start to invest in yourself and see that your happiness lies in loving yourself, like you were saying, everything leads back to love. And when we really get down to brass tacks, it starts with loving ourselves. The universe can only love us to the degree that we love ourselves. So if we allow it to help us, it will help us to that degree. But if we're closed off,
the universe is just laughing, waiting for going, be like, will this girl ever wake up? Because if she were to open that door and find the handle, behind it is so much abundance, it's so much love that we want to pour on her, but we can't seem to find the handle because we can't get out of our own way. Right?
Well, I feel like they tell me, like, if you don't think you're ready, how are we supposed to trust you? Like, we have all this for you, but if you don't believe you're ready,
keep saying, fall back and we'll catch you. And you're like, but will you? But will you? Right?
Yeah.
But will you? How many times have I asked? They're like, yes, Sally, we will. After these many years. Well, are you sure? They're like, okay.
Sally just goes and visits her spirit guides for fun, just for them to tell her to chill out and like you don't have to come back here, girl.
Stay focused. Like, what are you doing here? Yeah.
She's like, they're like, do you want a permanent residence? Like, what do you want? You want a
they're
citizenship?
Like, way too much into you, so shut up and get back to work.
They're like, go help some people. We give you a gift.
Like, are you sure that I'm all the way up? They're like, oh my God.
Well, okay. So for somebody so first we've kind of started to lay out a little bit of what it is and why it's important, but I think it's important for us to really get into what frequencies are, what a lower vibrational frequency is, and how you can identify if you're in these lower vibrational states, because you do want to move out of them for so many reasons. One, you can't create out of a lower vibrational state. Right. You are in such a form of victimhood that you'll never be able to really take accountability, take ownership, and really create something of meaning, which is your true purpose. Right. I don't even say it because I'm like, dang, you're lazy. It's like, no, you deserve it. You were born with it.
So understanding too that there's levels of, when we say levels of awareness or frequency, there are different levels at which people are asleep, okay? That means they are identified with the mind only. So the mind doesn't even know if it's awake or asleep. All it's doing is a tracking device. It's just tracking, looking for the saber-toothed tiger. It wants to pull from the past, predict the future, and dump at the present moment. So everyone's living in fight or flight, being like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? That's sleep state. So anything below that is just asleep, meaning they think they're right, you're wrong, watch your back, I got to make sure, attack. It's primal. It's that primal, that level of just primal survival. And a lot of people are living in that, and understandably, COVID, with the market crash, with the money, with all inflation, people are scared. Understandably. But there are higher levels. When we move up the level of consciousness, we move into awareness of acceptance of what is. I can't have no control over it, so I move into acceptance. Cooperation with my neighbor. I may not agree with their religious or sexual belief or whatever, but guess what? Like, I can live in harmony and balance. And then you move up to levels of abstract thinking and reasoning, where we could have an argument. You represent Korea, I'm the United States, and instead of being like, I don't like what you said, I'm hitting the ball. Then I can say, hey, wait, I may not agree, but I can at least get behind your thinking and try my hardest to see where you're coming from. That's where we're going. And above that is the level of love. It's like love resides. Forgiveness. You see a beetle, you walk around the little beetle. That's Hawkins. I love listening to him. You just leave everything as is. There's nothing to disrupt. No need to interrupt, to impede, give your opinion. It's just being. The act of being.
So I wanted to walk through this model of spiritual intelligence. So this is first referring to the root chakra. So the root chakra is the lowest vibrational state. So if you are functioning out of the root chakra, you could say, you are in the vibrational state between 1 and 50.
That's survival, right?
That is survival. So yes, that is survival and sexuality.
Right.
This is where victim consciousness also lives. And this is the surviving day to day. So this level of vibration is also referred to as insanity, because you are creating your own hell on earth.
It's very primal.
It's very primal. It is literally surviving. You are in a mode where everything and everyone is out to get you.
Right.
The universe, everything is happening to you at all times.
Right. When you look at the map of consciousness, when it looks at the bottom, it shows you that people living at like the level of destruction,
right?
Just obliteration, just elimination. Just wanting to get rid of the there's just no. It's complete destruction.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool chart.
Because that describes those levels.
And it's really cool. One of my favorite things that Sally and I can do is discuss spirituality from so many different angles. Yeah. This is really important to me when it comes to, honestly, the next chapter of my life. I think the next chapter of our lives on this podcast. But realistically, I think that it is kind of the next chapter because it is hard to avoid the reality that is experience. Yeah. And for me, I started with personal training. Yeah. I started with mastery of the body, you could say. Yeah. And I realized that there was so much more to that. Right. It was unavoidable. If I wanted to continue to better myself, I had to look beyond the physical.
Oh, it's always going to come. I mean, you can avoid it as long as you want. But I don't care what field you work in. The calling is always to help others. The calling is always to send that message out.
Right. So but I found that message didn't come until I went through this and I got to a point where I love myself enough to say I need other people to love themselves to this degree.
That's
like
the
I
only
can't.
Time you can't come when you fully fall back into self, and you're like, I got me. I don't need people to get me.
You're like, now I got to save these people.
I got me. Like, I love me. I love all of the things that annoy people. I love all of it. I love that I lose my keys. I love that I let my dogs run out of the house. I have to find them every 2 weeks. I love it. But that's okay.
That's hard. But that's hard. That is very hard for people to understand.
Yeah.
But I think that the way I would explain that is that I don't, for example, let's use a key example. I don't love that I forget my keys, but I love that I get to experience myself experiencing this. I love that I forgot my keys and I was aware of it and the way that it happened.
But I love that I've been doing it since I was 15. Right? There you go. And that there's a part of me that could be, I'm so awakened. Yet my father would be like, if you put your keys in the same place every day and the same, you'll always know where they are. And I'm like, that's a great idea. However, I just don't know if it's going to be possible.
You're like, it's just not that fun to me.
And so when you fully surrender to like, you know what, I'm an entrepreneur, but at the same time I can lose my keys. It's all good. There's the light of this.
That's the most beautiful part of it all is that when you get to a certain point. So first we have that survival mode, right? That root chakra. From here, it's extremes. So you're suffering, strong addiction to stimulation. You're trying to distract yourself from all your inner issues that you don't want to deal with. Yeah. There's almost no interest in personal development at this point because again, the world, everything, everyone is acting on you. Yeah. So why would you do the work? I'm sure we're all thinking of somebody now. Right. I'm sure we have someone in our mind.
My daughter.
But to be honest, you know what the crazy part is? Like reading through this and the more I learn, the more I can pinpoint parts of my life where I can see that version of myself. Yes. And it's like a movie. It's like seeing a character development.
It's the evolution of consciousness. When we're born sentient beings and we have to go to sleep. We have to. When we say like, I came from an abusive home, I almost in therapy want to be like, yes, I now sound sick. Hold on one second. Because I know that the struggle they went through is only going to wake them up earlier. It's only going to be that contrast that they need to be like, you know what? I keep reaching for my dad's love. I keep reaching for, and you know what? It's not there. Guess what? It's and bam, I have it. It's me.
Right.
And so I'm not sounding sick. I'm not for or against it, but the struggle is
good.
But
now that you have it, let's use it.
It's good. So I tell parents, stop blocking your children from having an experience.
Yeah.
If they get bullied, let them work it out. We've got to get out of it because it builds that
character. Yeah. And it's unavoidable, right?
Absolutely.
Like my nephew, for example, he's going to start, I think, kindergarten now.
Yeah.
He's growing up so fast.
Good.
And we were talking about school, and you know, they're like, oh my gosh, but you know, now you're going to get to the age where it's like bullying or like this and that. And I'm like, you know what? Here's the thing. It's going to happen. It's going to happen whether he's 5, whether he's 10.
It has to happen.
But because even though it's happening in school,
to wake up,
is this still the way that we are learning lessons today, right? We learn lessons with the people in our lives. Kids are learning lessons with the people in their lives.
Right, but why do we think, why is it that so many more people are starting to wake up now?
Joe Rogan.
When we're starting to see so much corruption in the government, it's tightening. So I'll tell you, people are waking up earlier and earlier. When I do sessions, here I am, 46. What took me 20 years, I think with you took 6 sessions. Oh, hold on.
Maybe.
I think all of a sudden
it was like it was like 3 sessions and 1 good DMT trip.
Right, or I'm a good therapist and I nailed it. No, but I don't think that was it. I'll tell you what. But when it's amazing, this younger generation, because they're so hungry for it, because they don't buy the BS anymore.
Yeah, and I do also think that one of the things that has really sunken into me the older I've gotten is that I've thought about, okay, my parents came here to the United States from Colombia so young. They had me and my younger brother, so I was maybe like 3. My younger brother was like barely 1. David hadn't even been born yet. And I remember that my parents worked really, really hard to build what they have now. And they have a construction company and everything. But they worked their asses off to get what they have. And they still do on a daily.
And they taught us that. Yeah.
And they taught us that, but they also didn't bring us here to struggle like they did.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course,
and when you're in that, I need to survive and I need to make sure that I have the basic necessities for my family.
Then you're living a lot of
you're living in the, not to say it's not a negative, right? We're not saying that,
but
because
it's fear driven.
Right. Well, you have a different, not a different I don't want to say purpose, but you have a different necessity. You have a different necessity. You have to function at different levels, and you just don't have the energy to spend on these like higher spiritual theories and theorizing where we come from when you're trying to.
In that generation, was therapy very available?
Oh,
was that
no.
very popular? I mean,
that's another thing.
Were men going to go and share their feelings? Come on, no.
We still struggle with that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
it was get food on the table, provide, and let's get through
right.
this. Yeah.
So I think that us having now like more generations that have been established that are here now, being able to experience more than the other generations have had. We have that going for us, and we have knowledge at our fingertips.
Oh my gosh.
Knowledge is no longer like a dividing factor.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, I'm like, okay, I'm still in business as a therapist, but there's so much on the internet. Okay,
right. You're like, at what point?
I'm constantly studying,
yeah.
and I'm like, you guys, you do know that a lot of what I'm saying is said at a mastery level, but okay, I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Whatever, we'll all still, but it's available.
Yeah.
We have the internet, there's access to so many awakened, beautiful beings. And I'd love to maybe list the ones that I followed that, the Anthony DeMellos, the 4 Agreements. We've got, you've got Rupert Spira, you've got Muji, you've got Satguru.
Oh my gosh, so many.
Levels with Marcus Aubrey, who's doing all that work with the compassion,
right.
The camp where he's bringing all these people together. Plant medicine, all the work that we're doing, Terrence McKenna. There's so much out there. How can we still sit there and play video games? I'm just saying.
Right. There's so much more available to us that has so much more value. But I think that when it comes to, and I don't want to say I think because I know from experience that the more involved you get with spirituality, the more you invest into. When I say invest into spirituality, I'm more talking about giving. How do I say
so maybe
this?
we should define spirituality or something?
Yeah, let's do that.
So spiritual is how do you I know my definition, but how would you believe? To be spiritual means that you believe in what? Like you believe in
to be spiritual is to believe in a connection between everything.
Yeah.
And I believe that there are universal laws that also govern that spirituality that are, like I said, universal, where they're very much across the board. Right. And I think that with practice, all of these things help us develop and become better versions of ourselves. And when we become better versions of ourselves, we are more driven to give ourselves more love. Right. And that becomes a cycle, I think, of you creating energy and creating a world that you enjoy here on Earth. So I feel like the definition for me with spirituality is very connected back to yourself. It's like this connection with the universe that gives back to you in order to
from self to source.
Yeah.
That we came in. we came into these avatars, these wetsuits, whatever you want to call them, whatever. This is just the vehicle. We're physical beings having a spiritual experience. So the death of the body, this is just the avatar. That's not important. It's the spirit, the soul, connecting back to source energy. So spiritual, people misconstrue it a lot of times, but it's just a connection with the divine.
Yeah.
Connection with the heart center, with the divine. With, to think that there's like nothing when we leave here would be horrible. I couldn't imagine.
But I can understand why people might be afraid to think of, or to even say the word divine, right? Because divine almost starts to teeter into, is it religious? Like people start to...
The divinity in us.
Right. And for me...
I'm going to work it in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm like, we'll figure it out. No, by the end of everything, give us 2 weeks, you'll be convinced. But for me, I think that if you're going to look at this experience or look at these methods in any way, this podcast in any way, it's a way for you to stay open-minded and take in as much as you can so that you can use whatever works for you to better yourself. Because some things are going to resonate with you because you're at a certain level of spirituality and you're ready for that. So for some people, it's not going to make any sense at all. And you're going to think, I'm freaking crazy. And that's okay. It's okay.
What's important too is let's talk about what leads up to a spiritual awakening. Like what brings someone to the point where they're ready for one?
Okay.
Is it just you're just happy like, skipping down the street? You just want one? No.
Well, that also brings us
of pain, some painful event, something that rocks you hard enough to make you realize, hold on, there's got to be something different. And everybody has that aha moment or that experience, I believe.
Right. And I think that actually brings us to the sacral chakra.
There we go.
Which is the next one, which is...
Right in there. I watched the video before.
We didn't rehearse for 6 hours before this. I'm just kidding. So this is now sanity. So we go from insanity to sanity. Root chakra is I am the body. So you identify with the body, which also makes a lot of sense when you think about a lot of the anxiety that is rooted in, I think, a lot of our generation or the younger generations now. It all has to do with like body dysmorphia and not feeling like you're good enough physically, right? So
the root chakra is not grounded. The rest of them, forget it.
Yeah,
they're not going to get the same.
It's tough. So then we move on to sanity, which is the sacral chakra, which is now identifying with I am the person. So this is the next level of the vibrational frequency between 51 and 75, and this is this person now wants to improve. So this is now what you're saying, where like this person now has an aha moment in some way. It's not huge.
Are they have a spiritual awakening, or are they just kind of like, I just want to be better?
Yeah, no, this is before even, I think the next one. I think the solar plexus is now where I'm the mind, and that's where you start to law of attraction. That's where you're like, okay.
That because we know we're not the mind. Then we'll go ahead.
We'll
go later.
Listen, I'm telling you, when you think you figured it out, don't worry, because you have to start all over for the next one.
Get the back of the line.
Yeah, I never understood that. I mean, okay, we had a therapy session, and you told me that, and it hit me, and I was like, okay, I get it. This is what I'm talking about when you say like things hit you different when you're working through things. And I was like, okay, I get it. And then the more I learn about this, the more I identify my journey with the journeys that other people have experienced. I realize I'm like, oh shit, you really like. What happens is that you get comfortable in this range, right? Like, let's call it a class. You're taking a class. The universe is putting you through a class. And right now, let's say that we're working through the sacral class, sacral chakra. And you do the work. You start practicing discipline and self-responsibility, developing more interest in spirituality, become more empowered.
But then that ego wants...
And then the ego, and then you start... And that's the whole duality, too. These are the universal laws that I'm saying you can't really escape because it's just in everything. You have that duality where it's like, it starts off so pure. It's inquiry. It's that childlike innocence. And then you start to get a little cocky, even though you don't realize.
Absolutely.
You don't even realize, but you start to think like, okay.
Like, I'm the best therapist.
Like, I got this. Yeah, you're like...
The second I hear that, I go, back of the line, Sally.
Yeah, no, it's true.
My ego gets checked like that.
If you are not humble throughout the experience, which will happen, it has to happen, right? We have to go through these cycles.
Right.
But if you start to think that you got it down, just prepare yourself.
The second you hear
just let it go.
I got this. I remember coming out of a DMT trip, and I was like, I got this. And they were like... And I remember the last 10 minutes, they're like, oh, you do? They got me back on the train, and they were like, well, we're going to take you through hell real quick. I was wait. They're like, just remember, you're special. But,
You're not that special.
There's a lot of people that are special too.
That's why. No, I
thought of you were getting me prepared to be the warrior, the top.
Yeah. Number one. I know it's really tough. It's tough because you really have this moment where you got to start over, and you have to.
It makes you feel so special and loved.
Yeah. Well, you're like, it's me and you, my guy.
God, you're letting me see. It's just it's a conversation between you.
It's just us two. Yeah. But then it's like you get thrown curveballs where it's like it's us two, but it's also you and them, and it's also us two, which makes us nothing, which makes this start over. Start over.
Amazing.
So once you get into kind of like the sacral chakra, it's kind of like the next level. You now have a little bit more energy to start investing into yourself. So here we're talking about negatives and positives, but they're not necessarily negatives in the way that it's going to deduct points or deduct anything away.
It's the yin yang in us. It's the we have to have the left to have the right, the up to have the down, the duality.
Right, and the negative is more referring to what's going to keep you stagnant, what's not going to cause you to grow.
Right.
Because in spirituality, it's not negative encroaching on the positive. It's lack of positive that is the negative.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like lack of God that is lack of source, lack of light, not any blackness or darkness that is.
There's no good or bad. There's just what is. It's just the polarity.
Exactly.
So let's pull that dark end and look at it.
Yeah. No reason to fear it. So in here, something that would keep you stuck in the sacral chakra would be continuing that like addiction to stimuli. Yes, the limited beliefs. Limited beliefs. You're gonna
playing old narratives.
Staying stressed and frustrated.
Yeah.
You're still in the mindset that this is happening to you, not for you.
Mentality.
Yeah, you're still battling with that.
That sounds to me like victim mentality right there. This is the world. It's happening to me.
So how would you say somebody would get out of that victim mentality?
I love this question. Day one, when a client comes to me, I say,
she's like, like sit down, buckle up.
When a client comes to me, I say, listen, I come from a place of kindness and love. I don't know if I gave you that.
Scoot this to you a little bit.
I don't know if I.
You can pull it towards you a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I.
There you go. I want you to be comfy, wumpy. I just want you to hear you.
I've been able to be.
I think you should be good.
Has my voice been heard this whole time? It better be.
We have to start over. No, I'm just kidding. I'll lip sync everything for you.
But where was I? I was talking about. Okay, so
yes.
So one thing I'll say is, listen. Usually in the consultation call or whatever, but I may have done this with you, but I'm like, listen, I come from a place of kindness and love, but I'm going to go straight through, okay? Because honestly, would I be doing you any service if I were to give you coping skills to how to manage anxiety or depression, or do you want to eliminate it?
One of the things that I've learned throughout my spiritual journey is that honesty is respect.
Yeah.
And transparency is even better.
Yeah.
So I want people around who are going to not waste my time because they're like, you're valuable. Your time's valuable. If I love you, I'm going to tell you.
I was like, I don't want to keep you on for years like other therapists. I want you to get it and go, because if you're still sticking around here, that means you're not getting it.
Right.
And I'm bored.
And that's how I feel when I was saying I feel that this is kind of like the new chapter of both of our kind of careers, I guess you could say, where I've always felt this desire to teach, but not for you to need me, right? Like the goal is for all of us to help each other, learn from each other, grow from each other, and better as a community, as a society, as a world.
So what was the question was about
victimhood,
about waking,
how to get out of victimhood, or how to get out of the mentality.
So I tell people, I'm like, listen, if I hear, so I'll get a couple, and they'll be like, I need you when you come home to make me happy, because you come home with a disgusted look on your face every day. And I look at the wife and I'm like, wait a second, maybe he had a bad day at work. And they're like, I don't care. I need. And I'm like, all day long I hear that. I'm like, the I. Or like, because you said this, I'm mad. I'm like, really? Because somebody else said something that you didn't like, you're mad? You're going to allow yourself to give all your power away to someone who first of all, that's just like an agreement. Nothing's personal.
Right.
But it's just so funny. And I go, how can we ever be a victim? When was it ever written that somebody owes us jack shit? Sorry. Did anybody come to your, this is what my teacher told me. It's probably good. People might not like this, but
that's okay.
Okay, we're going to go there. Did anybody come to your bedside at the hospital and tell you they promised to love you and care about you and think about you the rest of your life? I don't remember anyone. So guess what? Joke's up. Listen, anything and everything are expectations you put on your parents, by society, by culture, by everything. So it's interesting. So this idea of, the victimhood. So, nobody came to my bedside when I was a child and promised to love me, cuddle me, but yet we grow up and we're like, but my dad wasn't cuddly. My mom was mean or whatever. Guess what? Their central job was to bring you into this world, and that's the end.
Yeah.
When my teacher told me that, I was like, no, wait a second. That can't be right.
You're like, I'm owed.
They're supposed to tell me how special I was. Tell me how wonderful I was. No. It's like, no, they weren't. Anything above that were expectations you had placed on what a father or mother should be.
Yeah.
And so that part of being a victim, you stop blaming others, and you're like 100% radical ownership. Okay? That's the name of the game.
And when you take that radical ownership, that's hard. But when you really think about it, and they don't owe you anything, if you remove those expectations, what are you left with? You're left with self-pity that you created for yourself out of nowhere.
But it's a delusion. It's like smoke and mirrors. Like,
right.
I should go up to my mom and be like, you didn't love me enough. Okay?
Right.
Like, say you're my mom. I'm upset with you because you didn't love me enough.
How much was I supposed to love you?
More than you did.
How should I? Can I go back? Can I fix this, Sally?
I don't think.
Can I love you more now in the past?
It just gets to be. Or how about this one? I'm mad at you because you worked hard all life, and you weren't home enough for me because you were working the whole time. So I'm mad because you didn't care about me.
And that's where self-awareness makes. There's something that happens to us. Like when I got to a point in my life where I really thought to myself, like, my parents weren't parents before they were parents. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I feel like as children, you almost like are born into this world being like, my parents were born parents, right. Obviously.
I would love for that father to be like, well, guess what? I was working to take care of you. So sorry, catch you in the next lifetime.
No, 100%.
Instead of being like snotty. I mean, our fathers, this older generation, these baby boomers, no, they're the way they loved was to provide.
Yeah.
And we're all like, but you didn't spend time with me. Guess
right.
what? And them not spending time with you allowed you to awaken to the fact that, like, I can play with myself. I got me. I can entertain myself. So they did you a service.
Right.
But to sit there and tell a father, like, you didn't love me enough, when he's like, my job was to make sure that I left a generation for you, your children, a foundation, financially. Bless their heart. And here we are, picking at our parents.
Right.
So when you start to realize leave them alone. I tell people all the time, leave them alone. They did their job. Stop badgering them. And then you start to see someone else, it's like, if I were to say, I don't like the way you look. Okay? Now, if a part of you inside believes, gosh, I don't like the way I look, I'm going to send you poison. Just as 4 ingredients, I'm going to send you poison. And if you believe it, you're going to drink that poison and lock it in, and it's going to become truth. And how do you know? I could be reflecting onto you. You could remind me of an aunt, a sister, whatever. You don't know, but
right.
We're personalizing everything.
Right. Well, that agreement is do not take things personally. Yeah. And when you really think about the world as, what is it called? You being first source, right? Like you're the first source of everything. So everybody else is only reacting to who they are and what they have experienced.
We're all just mirrors for each other.
The person that is reacting to you in traffic and cut you off did not cut you off because of you. They cut you off because of the type of person they are.
And they didn't even see you. Isn't that funny? People are getting mad because someone didn't even see them.
Right.
When someone comes into session, they're like, when I get cut off, I'm like, so wait, you're going to waste all this energy, and the person who cut you off didn't even know you were there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or they did, and you're going to give them that energy when it had nothing to do with you. That is still you actively deciding to give that energy back. Yeah. And then we get to a point of empowerment. Empowerment is now our solar plexus. Did you see the video I posted the other day?
Which one?
Where it was a guy, what's his name? I forgot the actor.
There's so many videos. They're so great. No, they're great.
But he was talking about how when he's on the red carpet, he puts his hand here, and in a lot of photos, he has his hand here. And I thought it was so fascinating because he said, you know why I put my hand here? Because that's where my anxiety is. And his hand was right over his solar plexus.
Wow.
And I thought that... Huh? Pedro Pascal.
Oh, wow.
So he's so adorable. He's such a cutie.
Yeah.
But he said that, and I reposted it because I think it's so interesting. Yeah. What happens when you listen to your body and you feel, because there's a difference between emotions and feeling, right? Like you feel with your body physically, and things can happen in different points. Like your anxiety can manifest in different areas of your body. And if you are in tune to that, you can get hints to what you are experiencing at a mind level that you may not be aware to in the moment. And for him to do that while he's on the red carpet and he's doing all these things when the solar plexus has to do with your self-worth, your self-confidence.
Bringing attention to it. It's not almost a form of Reiki or energy work. Bringing attention. It's almost like having, a cat lay on your stomach. And that feeling, a sensation of being able to calm down. Yeah. Just that presence.
Exactly. And I even think, him just putting his hand over it without him knowing. He's consciously, he's shielding himself and adding energy to that area.
Because that's level of consciousness where your body will always send off a signal on the physical plane before to alert you. Like shortness of breath, you're about to go into a panic attack, but we don't listen to it. We're not in our bodies, listening to our bodies. Yeah. And we need to.
And that's a huge thing. I think that the more we are able to listen, the more we're going to be told. Like your body will tell you a lot about yourself.
It will, or eventually the universe will force you to have to listen. And you don't want to get to that point.
Yeah, exactly. Because
heart attack, stress.
Yeah. And the way I think about it is the universe is like deeply, madly freaking in love with you.
It is.
But it doesn't want a toxic relationship.
Right.
So
But I'm telling you too, it's like it will send you signs, get this done, but it'll eventually say, if you don't do it, we'll bring it, like it'll force you.
Yeah.
Something will happen.
No, it will.
Try to catch it before,
Yeah.
Because we've all experienced it when we're like, okay, I should have done that.
Yeah. That's when they say getting to rock bottom.
Yeah.
That's where rock bottom is.
Unfortunately, as an Aries or Ram, I constantly have to
get there.
My teacher's
I'm a Scorpio.
She's like, have you ever thought about being the lamb? I was like, wait, what did she say? The lamb. What is a lamb? She's like, yeah. Instead of being.
There you go.
I got it. I got this.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You got to push it and twist it.
Okay, push.
Bop it.
Bop it.
What is it? Twist it.
Right. But instead of being.
Can you hear?
Yeah. Okay. I got it. But instead of being the ram, why don't you try being the lamb? And I was like.
You're like, that's an option?
What?
That's crazy.
I go, a lamb. A ram. But rams go.
Yeah.
And she's like, exactly. You've been doing that through 3 different treatment centers in your life. You've been doing that through. I was like, I have caused a lot of destruction. Maybe I should practice being the lamb. And then that was my study. I wanted to learn everything about Taoism. I wanted to learn everything about, just understanding yin yang, understanding about letting go.
I love that.
The flow, the Tao.
And it's a constant learning. Yeah. It's a constant learning and relearning because ego gets in the way. Like you said, we are these divine beings having a human experience, so we also have ego to maneuver this world with. Right. And when it comes to that, ego just loves you so much that it's hard to see that love can get toxic, and that love can keep us stuck in places because ego doesn't want us to move because it's scared of that change. And so we have a lot to maneuver in this life, and it's a constant relearning of these lessons. And when we get to the solar plexus, we get to that empowerment phase where now we're looking for personal empowerment. We're working to balance the ego. We have more awareness of our inner world. Yeah. Spiritual practices begin. There's more success in relationships. We now have more empathy towards people.
That's the stage where we're really going in deep into the self, and we're really going into that shadow work, and we're having isn't that the dark night of the soul experience?
I was just going to say, I think so.
I believe that is. And that really separates the men from the boys.
Yeah.
If you're ready to do that, then that means you're seriously ready for this adventure. So a lot of people stop at that because it's not easy.
Right.
It's not.
It gets to a point where you realize that it's difficult, but you start to welcome it because you have now gone through the cycle, right? We can almost see each of these levels as like a cycle where you're having to learn things. You're almost having to go through a process and become somebody else on the other side.
The one thing I do with my clients is I say, listen, I take a piece of paper, I draw I probably do this with you, I draw a human being, and then from it, I draw a bunch of other little people. And I say, this is who you are when you came into this world. Now, these are all of the archetypes, these are all the faces or the masks that you've developed throughout this world, starting from ages like 4 to 12. The placater, the peacemaker, the victim, the hero, the goody two-shoes, the perfectionist, the good girl. I mean, I was all of them.
Yeah.
The avoider. And until you recognize that the ego has developed all of these And rightfully so, because how could the 3-year-old who used to run through the streets, they didn't care if they were naked, could ever last.
Yeah.
But they have to go through this. But once you recognize I am not the mind, and the ego has developed these personalities, then with the awareness comes in. Today, it took a long time, but today, when my victim wants to run, my righteous victim was the last one to go, because I was like, no, I am owed an apology.
Yeah, that one's tough.
That's a tough one.
That one I recently, me and my friend Sam, we're both Scorpios, and for some reason I feel like that has to do with the things we go through. But that one's hard.
When I hear myself say that, I hear my teacher being like, "Oh, who owes you what?" And I'm like, I hear my spirit guide be like, "Oh, they owe you what now? They owe me an apology, really?" And then I can hear myself, and I'm just like, "Never mind." No, just never mind.
And you also get to a point where you've gone through these cycles where you can theorize, like, okay, how would I feel if I did get this apology? And you're like, okay, that would not go as far as I really want it to. You know, like you're like, there's still that feeling now that you're connected with your body, now that you feel in your body, you're like, that feeling that I still have wherever you feel, it's still there.
But then go deeper. Why would I ever need someone to apologize? Ever in this world?
Well,
because there's an expectation that wasn't met. That's all it is.
100%. And but
I
even
need
then,
you to apologize for being late. What in the world? I mean, this is ridiculous. Or I'm waiting for an apology. And these families that are broken and torn apart, it's like, you guys, nobody owes us jack shit in this world until we learn that. We came in alone, we're going to go out alone. So learn to love yourself. Everything emanates from inside out, but we're just so lost. It's like, well, because you did this, then that means I'm going to do this.
Well, and it also becomes sad when the problem becomes that there is no apology. You know what I mean? Like, that totally is not what needs to be addressed at all. So it really starts to take away from what could be a growing experience or learning experience for a family or relationship.
Yeah, every day it's just about being intentional about my mantra today is to be kind and loving to myself and others. And it used to be I change it every month to like practice effective listening or whatever. But really, when it comes down to it, the more I love myself, it just emanates out. There's I could have a couple and say one thing, and I can't cuss. I won't cuss on this body. I guess, but they do say. I have clients that will just rip me up and down. It's hysterical, and I just start laughing. I'm like, you want a hug? No.
Okay. Like, can I get you ice cream?
But I'll say one comment, and how it's perceived. One will be like, that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard, and the other one is like, you know what you can go do? And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yes, because I knew I hit a knot. I hit a knot. And that is where we're going. And it's the beautiful thing.
I was going to say, and the beautiful thing about that is realizing that there is this perfection to everything, whether it's like the client that gets it and it clicks or the client that gets it and you hit a knot. It's like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's all filtered through their perception, their way of seeing life. And that's why we have to understand. When I hear people say, "But I'm right and you're wrong," I just want to laugh. I just think it's hysterical that we're still living at 8 billion people on this planet, and everyone's right.
I just go, get away from me. I'm gonna go say a few prayers, get this off me.
It's hysterical, and so it's just like, no, there's your version and your version and your version, and that's if you believe that you're right, then you're asleep. That's a differentiation between sleep. You believe you're right, but you have to also understand that the person next to you might see the tree slightly different color green than you do. Who am I to say, no, sorry, it's forest green, you're wrong. Like, what are we doing?
How would you then define somebody who's asleep versus awake? How could you identify?
Oh, easily. They're always the victim.
True.
They're always projecting onto others. They throw temper tantrums. They don't.
So it's really is. It's almost like the last three chakras, where it's like it's all coming from a victimhood. Like it is. Yeah, it is. It is me versus everything. I think that once we get to, I think the fourth chakra is the heart chakra.
No compassion.
Once we get to the heart chakra, and we start to, that's when we start living outwards, where we start to see like, oh, this is not. It's not all about me. It's not all about me. But at the same time, it is about me. It's about being able to give myself the love that I'm seeking from others. I'm not the victim anymore. The things that I want from other people, I've been able to give myself this whole time. And you start to get to a point where you're self-validating. And now and
you'll never go against yourself after that.
And the tough part, I think one of the toughest parts about being on a spiritual journey and learning and trying to grow is that there's this I don't know. I don't want to call it a fear, but it has been something that has held me back. And it is knowing that I can't unknow what I learned.
No. Once you open Pandora's box.
Yeah, it's tough. And sometimes it really
it's tough, but it's the greatest.
It's amazing.
Ever.
Sometimes it's like ripping off the Band-Aid where you're like, I'm gonna learn this. It's gonna change me. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, it's gonna stir things up.
You're all so afraid of change. It's the one constant thing that's always happening. And people are afraid of it.
And I think that's what hinders a lot of people when it comes to really trying to grow through their spirituality, because once you step into empowerment, once you step into your heart chakra and you realize, oh, the love that I want, I give to myself, you can't now play victim. Or here's the thing, I truly believe in transparency. I do believe in free will, and I think that you can. If you wanted to play the victim 100%, you can still do it.
It's so disempowering.
But
it gives away all of your power.
But you have to know, you have to be transparent enough to know, I'm going to sit here and be the victim because I'm choosing to be the victim.
Right. And guess what? That means I'm going to give someone else poison. I'm going to take poison and expect someone else to die.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. Like holding resentments. People don't care.
Right.
The thing that I love, like, don't take yourself so serious. People really don't care about you that much.
Right.
It's such a great feeling.
Yeah, it's liberating.
It's liberating, and I don't want them to.
Right.
I'd rather be the person who moves in and out the back door.
Yeah.
Because I don't, in Taoism they say that, the best leaders are the ones who lead their men. They don't even know that there's a leader. Okay.
Right.
The second best is to have their men love them. So it's like, what are we doing? Like, less is more. Why are we getting so involved?
Yeah.
But, one thing I want to say is that there has to be a deep desire to do this work and peel back those layers or those archetypes and realize that, yes, they served you as a kid, but when you get into adulthood and you're still like nanny boo boo, I'm more right than you are, you're not raising your frequency, but you're so stagnant. It's like nobody wants to play in that playground. I mean, actually many people do, but please, especially if you have children, do the work of realizing it's not about you.
Yeah.
And that was the most beautiful thing, to be humble enough to say, it's not about me. It is about me in the sense that I have to continuously learn to work out those knots. Anything, that's why I keep teachers, everything around me. I love going into the dark because that just brings more light. But I have to be ready and prepared for my clients. I have to be in a state of pureness to hold the space, to not judge or anything like that. But loving yourself first.
Yeah.
But you have to stop all these narratives of like, yeah, that's great for you, but my mom told me that I'll never be this or this or this. I'm like, stop giving your parents so much credit.
Yeah.
Like, golly.
Yeah, I definitely think
are greatly overrated.
Yeah.
Come on.
I definitely think once we get to that heart chakra, that the upper levels of vibrational states, we start to be able to feel better. That just being in that state feels better. And then, and now we're able to really give to others. And there is something beautiful that happens where you realize that you go from being this like open system where anything can come in and out and you almost have no control over it. And you're just, anything can happen.
Which is always
right.
been.
But then you also get to a point where you realize, oh, I am my own system. I fuel myself, and nothing can really come in unless I allow it.
That makes me cry. It's beautiful. Yeah,
it is. And at the same time, I'm now capable, because I'm giving to myself. I'm creating this infinite source of unconditional love.
I am the great I am.
Yeah. So now you're able to fully give to others in an unconditional way. This is something that to me is so integral in my teaching. Girl, don't make me cry right now. I'm really gonna cry.
This is beautiful.
But this is really where I feel like my current calling is at. I feel that I'm very much going back and forth and really resonating with that heart frequency, because I think that ultimately for us to better the world, we need to better ourselves first.
Yes.
And that starts with love. When we talk about every religion, everything that has to do with spirituality, always coming back to love. That's not a joke.
And watching your journey and my journey too.
Oh my gosh, it's been wild.
I said, listen, you have to be able to walk this path with a partner and without, and know that all is well. If you have to constantly be in a relationship, you're never going to know yourself.
No.
Be able to be like, walk this path alone, especially for women.
Yeah.
Spend a couple years getting to know yourself. Do the work. If you get in a relationship, right after a relationship that was toxic, you're going to learn nothing, and you're going to spend 50% of that energy wasted. Take the time you deserve to do that work of peeling back those layers until you understand the phoenix that you are, the goddess that you are. and truly embracing that. And you will reach, once you've reached that level, you will meet someone at a higher frequency where it's just easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
It's insane. It's actually insane. I think the more that I invest in the quality of person that I am, which I think is very closely connected to spirituality, because if somebody's developing their spirituality, that also goes hand in hand with their education. They're seeking more knowledge. They're wanting to better themselves in general. That's starting with the body, that's starting with the mind, that's starting with the spirit. So the type of people that you're going to start meeting are people,
your tribe.
Yeah, and they're people that are going to start to understand unconditional love, which is source. When we talk about love, it should seem redundant. It should seem redundant to say unconditional love, because love should be unconditional.
Well, it should be.
Right. But we function so much in a world that claims love but is not true to unconditional love.
A parent can't even say they unconditionally love their child.
Right.
Bringing home a bad grade. Let's say
we're all biased. Right. We all have biases. And again, it comes with these different levels. Like once you're able to not take things personally, now you're able to go unconditional with it.
Right.
But if you're taking things personally, you can never be unconditional towards somebody you love.
You're a slave to other
right.
people.
It's like as soon if I have somebody, if my partner goes out and I feel some type of way when they go out, that's not me being unconditional towards them. No. You know, if I get jealous of them going out, that is me being conditional. And and I'm taking their having fun personally. Right. So it's like I can't love them unconditionally.
Like, can't someone come in and leave? Or like can't someone
That's a whole nother,
Can't someone come in and your partner of 5 years come and say, listen, I think that we've been on our path, but I've met someone else, and can you stand in that space and be like, I wish you well, I love you, and so be it.
And that's that's a big topic for me, because I really, really have come to terms with I don't want anything that's not for me. And that's just the way it should be, right?
Absolutely.
I don't want anything that's not for me. And the thing is that the sooner that I can get it away from me, the sooner I create space to attract what is for me. So there's that beautiful give and take.
One thing you've developed is a voice.
That's true too.
Where it's like, toxic energy comes, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want you to push it away. We used to be the people pleasers, the placators, and all that stuff. Not anymore.
But I'll tell you, I was gonna say, but I tell you, that came from loving myself unconditionally. Once I was able to say, you know what, Manuela, I got vulnerable first, girl. We got to get real vulnerable. We got to get real transparent. You got to lay it all out, good, bad, ugly, especially the ugly, especially things you don't want to know about. Yep. You got to lay it all out. And when you can say, okay, I see everything you are, everything you've been through, and I love you more than ever, that's the point.
Because it's like, I love you, because it's like, I do with clients, I say, when they're just beating themselves up, I say, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine going into a dark room and seeing yourself at a 7 or 8 and that little girl, and I want you to take
that's gonna make me cry.
I said, I want you to take your hand, and I want you to grab that little girl's hand, and I want you to let her know she's not alone anymore. She's not alone.
Let's all do this exercise right now, Sally. Maybe
she's not alone anymore. And you pull her and you integrate her into the heart center as a woman, as awaken. And you let her know she does not have to be scared anymore. She does not have to people please anymore. She does not. She can use her voice, and she doesn't have to worry about being called a bitch. All these things that she can stand in her light and in her queendom.
Oh my gosh!
And be that. But that little girl. I remember doing this work. I was in treatment center actually. I remember doing this work, and I was like, I'm not doing that stuff. But I remember when I was made to, I just started crying because I had neglected, and I went back to my house. And I hadn't looked at pictures of myself when I was ages like 7 to 12. I was always called a little boy, and I thought I was ugly. And I went back and I looked at those pictures, and I was like, that little girl,
gorgeous.
It was like she was so happy.
Yeah.
And I just neglected her. And then bringing that into heart center is really where you integrate self-love.
Yeah.
Because you're like, how could I love asking my clients, I'm like, can you give me one thing that you think something outside could possibly fill the inside?
I like this.
And I go, I'll wait. Tell me one thing. And they're like, love. I'm like, try again. But honestly, can you think of one thing that you can't give yourself that others can give you? I can't think of one.
Yeah, no. And I can't, once you really know, there's nothing that somebody could give me that will ever feel as good as what I can give myself. No. And that's the sad thing. That's the sad part, right? That's like the duality here that we're talking about. Well, it's happy, but it's like once you you can't go back.
Right.
You can't go back to looking for the validation in others. Some
Which
of
is
the
great.
some of the cycles that I've been through is
Right.
this, where I'm getting to those upper limits in my
Right.
teaching, right? And I'm like, okay, well, it's hard to carry it. It's hard to work through. I don't want to be the one holding this anymore. And I start to look around like, who's going to validate that I'm okay? You know,
Right.
who's going to
Yeah,
validate
no one.
that I'm on
Because
this
it's not their
ride?
job.
Well, and then, you know, that's when you really start over, because you're like, the point is that you don't need anyone.
And then the higher self says, you are.
The higher self, no, my higher self, listen, if you heard one thing about my higher self is my big sister, cool aunt, mom.
Really, mine's a male, very strict, hard.
I think I have two.
Okay.
My
Mine's like,
male.
you are. Like,
No, my higher self is like, she is me, but like every version of me in one. And it's this like, she's so bossy
I
to
met
me.
her in my living room.
yeah. She's very bossy to me, because she's like, girl, like, first of all, you don't have to come here.
But they are bossy. They are bossy. Mine's bossy.
Well, they just like, I feel like they care about me so much, not care about me, but they believe in me
do.
so much more than I am capable of understanding, that I feel like they look at me with this like, if you just freaking knew if you could just see what we saw, like, we wouldn't be here.
I went to my latest team trip. I was. They were so sick of telling me that I was going to be all right that they literally were flinging me into trees, and like I had half my head sticking in with my feet out, and they take me into concrete, and I had my feet out.
That's crazy.
They were flinging me around, and they were like, "We're just don't come back and visit for a few months. We're sick and tired." But I was like, "Am I going to be okay?" And they were just, it was so cute.
You're like, dang it.
Right. And I was hanging from a tree on one of them.
You're like, I just want to be. You just want to be part of the club.
Right.
You're like, when can I get? I just want to hang out with you guys. Let's go to lunch.
And they're like, we're gonna fling you around. It's so loving, but it's like, just stop it. We know it and integrate it and be it.
And I think that to me just rings so true. Like the self-love.
Yeah, and I think it's important too when we talk about the male or the feminine or the female voice to listen to. To me, it can refer to me as maybe guides, higher consciousness. Spirit guides, angels, intuition, a lot of that stuff. So it encompasses, and there's no judgment. I mean, I believe in all of it. Right. I really do.
And honestly, here's my thing: is like, who are we not to believe in all of it? Yeah. See, the thing here is that I like to base a lot of what I do off of as much science as possible, as much fact as possible. Right. And experience is fact. Right. Experience is fact. And for me, the things that I've experienced have allowed me to say with certainty that these things are real to me, because I felt them, because I embody them, because I am them. Right. Yeah. You know, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful point of your journey to become aware and to become awakened to this lifestyle and this way of living, where you are now this independent body living among other independent bodies, rather than this body always being affected. And that is also, it's hard to not talk about, right. And it's hard not to discuss duality when we talk about all this, because when you are taking on your power, when you take in your power, you also realize how much outward power you do have, because there are people that are at lower vibrational frequencies that are
raw energy, and you're sending out a beacon. You radiate the heart. The heart 528, this heart chakra radiates at 528 hertz. That's the tuning pitch to music. That's the leaves, the frequency of leaves, the trees. That's heart. And so if we can get into that, tap into that, people they're so anxious, just to take your shoes off and just stand in the grass, get grounded. Yeah. Take 5 deep breaths. There's so many ways. One thing I find with my clients is they're unwilling to do the work. Yeah. I mean, I sit there and they don't have to, but I'm like, hey, listen. Here are some suggestions. I mean, you came for some, but
like you paid me for it, so might as well.
Usually the ego comes in. I have to try to chip away at that for so long, and I'm like, listen,
we'll get through it.
Right? It's like we will, but quickly you see the ones that really care and don't. But there's so many methods and so many ways to get back to center when you're starting to find your mind just wander. But I highly suggest meditation, mindfulness, breath work, and they're like, ugh. And I understand that. I felt the same way at the beginning. But you have to do these. These are the way out.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So I think that a big part of doing the work is not knowing what the work is. Yeah. And so I would love for you to list a few ways that people can start to do that work, or ways that Yeah, let's just give them direction, because I think that it just can be so convoluted. There's so much to do and so many different levels to it where it can seem very intimidating.
Yeah.
So where would you have somebody start? Somebody who is ready to wake up to, I would say, their fullest potential, to the love they can give themselves, et cetera, et cetera.
A lot of times I'll have a client, I'll ask them to do a fears inventory, where I just want them to sit down with a piece of paper and write down all their fears. And I'll say, no judgment, fear of frogs, fear of your fifth grade teacher, fear of disappointment, fear of failure, fear of success. I just want you to write them down. And, I want you to just write them down. And it's amazing, because they'll come back and be like, I didn't know I had so many fears, But you'll see they're cyclical, okay? And then I might have them write.
What do you mean by cyclical?
Cyclical meaning they follow a pattern.
Okay.
Like you can see that the fears around abandonment or around...
So you have the same characters enter the same cycle, same cycle, different characters.
But there's something about putting it on paper, taking it out of the head and putting it on paper, where they're able to see it, and we study it. Another one is resentment inventory. I'll say, listen, I want you to write down, and this is all from the AA. This is all from Alcoholics Anonymous, and so a resentment inventory. I want you to write down everybody that you're resentful to. And they're like, I'm not resentful to anyone. I'm like, oh, okay. So when I did my resentment inventory, every line had to have, you had to put the name. So if I had 6 resentments towards my mom, every line, it said mom, 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 mom,
man.
Dad, 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 dad. But then there were ones for myself, and I had to write down what the resentment was, what the cause was, and what was my part in it.
Got you.
And it was beautiful.
Taking responsibility.
Right. What was my part in it? Was I self-seeking? Was I selfish? Was was my pride in the way? And then that really was one of the most fundamental, life-changing experiences, because it was like, we get to take ownership for it.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. So I'll start with that. And if a client can hang after that, then maybe we say, look, 4 agreements, start going into that kind of stuff. But it's like you've
more actionable steps, more practices after that.
The people come in just at such a high frequency, like anxious, so anxious. I'm like, all right, get down your fears. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And then I'll start talking about let's decipher between what are irrational and rational thoughts. Okay. The mind's going, I'm never going to make it. I'm always going to do it. It's like, okay, stop. Write them down. Take a piece of paper, and I want you to put a line through it. Irrational thought. I'm not going to be good enough ever. Okay.
So how would you define an irrational thought? What would that be defined by?
Irrational thoughts are all of the things that we tell ourselves that society has said. We're always, I'm not good enough. Irrational, not rational. Meaning rational is...
They have no substance behind it, no science behind it,
thought is,
no fact.
All is well. I am always taken care of. The universe has never dropped me off the cliff. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah. It's just now. All I need to do is focus on the now. So, but everyone's running with if I don't get this done, pretty much death.
Right.
I mean, they're running in levels of fight or flight. It's just crazy.
It's insane. I was talking to somebody about that the other day, where I was saying that we are living in such a state of fight or flight. Mm-hmm. If you really think about it, that's all it seems to be, where if you feel that there is no fulfillment past the day, if you're trying to get through the day, you are living in fight or flight. So I want to continue talking about the last 3 chakras, the last 3 energy centers we have. The next one is the throat chakra. This one is illumination. We're talking I am nothing is what we're identifying with at this point. The integration here is awareness of the I thought, contemplating the nature of reality and the self. Mm-hmm. Now we're really starting to think, okay, what am I? Who is this voice, right? Because throat chakra also has to do with our ability to speak our truth.
Right.
So now we're really starting to empower that. What is our truth? We're speaking up for ourselves. We're asking questions. We're using our voice. We're using our authentic voice. Yeah. Now that we're at a point where we can give ourselves unconditional love, we can love ourselves for all we are, and now we can ask these questions and get to the truth of reality and what it is.
I think that's the hardest for women, especially, is to have them step and speak the truth. And I know for myself, my throat chakra was completely shut off because I was told as a young kid, speak when spoken to. You know, these are all these ideas.
Of course.
And so I knew just mad, glad, sad, and angry. And I didn't know how to assert myself until we really open up our voice and say no, or I'll get back to you. And we don't obligate ourselves and feel like we have to be there for everyone. use your voice and stand. It's not personal what people say,
Right.
but it's truthfully speaking your truth.
And once you're in alignment, once you start to feel who you are and what resonates with you, when you start to step out of that alignment, that's when you're going to feel that you have to speak up. You have to set those boundaries.
Because you
have
can't
to
stand.
enforce
You
it.
love the feeling of being in alignment.
Yeah. Well, that's again
Right.
the thing. It's like once you fill that space, once you
don't want anything else.
once you felt that, you know when you're out of alignment, and then your goal is to get there again, which is almost a whole nother story, because if you try, then you fail.
Right,
so it's
right.
like
and
this whole thing.
Trust me, it's not easy. I've been off of it for a year at a time. It's not like a get back in 10 minutes. But it's
It's a whole process.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. But the beautiful thing is once you've gotten to this point, this higher vibrational frequency, which I think personally for me, I experienced within the last year. I feel that I have finally started to step into my truth. I feel that I'm starting to feel very more.
You look amazing on your videos. You really, I mean, the stuff you're doing is amazing.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And I think that it came. The beautiful thing about this whole process is that it becomes a selfless process. It's almost seems selfish when you start to give to yourself, but it's really giving to yourself in order to give to others. It's this this whole duality. And so
we're all a web.
Yeah. And so I think it's a beautiful thing once you get to this point where you have accepted everything you are, you accept everything that you can be, and you're at a place where you want to get people here too. And you think, and I personally feel that one of the best things you can do is talk about your experience, because your experience is fact. Like I said, you don't have to base it on religion. You don't have to base it on anything. I only base my training, my programming, everything off of my own human experience. And the thing is that we are all human. At the end of the day, we're all going through these processes, and we all have been already embedded with the potential to reach the highest level of enlightenment, which is ultimately what I would consider almost heaven on earth, a place, a point in your life where you have no suffering. There's no suffering associated with those upper levels, because you know, one is always for you.
Yeah,
so how could you be in pain when everything is for you, right?
Because you don't show compassion. Everyone's suffering. Yeah.
And so at this point, positive, no suffering, right? Because you're now able to speak for yourself. You're now able to.
We're at high levels now.
Yeah, you're now able to control what's kind of going on around you to the degree that you can. Right, constant self-examination. You're also not afraid to look at yourself now, because you have that ability for unconditionality.
You seek to do it.
Exactly. Total alliance with truth. This is, I think, the throat chakra. One of the things that it does for me is that when I hear somebody lying to me, or when I feel a lie, or when I feel that I'm not going to be truthful, I feel it. It feels like a block. It feels like a knot in my throat where I'm like something, and I don't have to know. It's not like I'm getting like that's so Raven, like they're lying to me. But it's like
you probably are actually. I mean.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the upper levels.
You could sense it. It's like
you can.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
It's like, and that's where that whole like intuition comes in. But again, the more you listen, the more in alignment you are, the more you'll be able to get that and feel that and think to yourself like, this is not a regular sensation I feel, but when I'm around you, for some reason, my throat closes up.
Right, exactly.
You know, and I'm like,
listen to that body.
Yeah, you're like, I don't feel that I can speak, or maybe it's because I don't feel like I can be myself. Yeah. There's something about that situation, that person.
That's it. That's the first thing to listen to and move away, because that's your body, your spirit telling you, this is dangerous, or this is not in your best interest.
Yeah. And if you're already at that level where you're experiencing those higher vibrational states, you want to cultivate that. You want to protect that, because this is when people say like protecting your peace. Like protecting your peace is a very like shallow version of protecting the fact that you've elevated your vibrational frequency to a certain point, and you did the work to get there. Why are you going to let somebody's opinion or somebody in that actually doesn't matter, that doesn't matter,
doesn't like themselves,
lower your vibrational frequency? When you know better, you know that sending them love is only going to elevate the situation.
It's funny, if anybody speaks ill about you, they don't like themselves. It's not personal.
Yeah.
If they love themselves, they speak kind. So it's not personal.
And once you know that, you experience something so, I don't know, there's something so grounding about that. Because I was talking to Daniela the other day where I told her, like, if somebody were to walk up to me and say something negative to me, I don't sit there and think to myself like, think about my rebuttal, like
Right.
like what blah, blah, blah. I think to myself like, wow, like you are hurt to the degree
Yeah.
you're trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad.
We've all been there.
Right. And to know that I am untouchable.
Right.
Like you can't touch me because I allow.
You can then send them love.
Right. So then you get to a point where it's like, wow, you trying to hurt me makes me sad. It makes me sad for you. It makes me wish that I could help you get to a higher frequency, to a place where you could love yourself enough to love others, or at least let others be.
Right.
Right? Because you don't have to love others. You
Right.
got to at least let them live their lives.
I think the best response to that is just, someone says a comment like that, you just acknowledge it, say, have a good day, walk off. I mean,
I'm like, I love you, sending you love and light.
Right.
So if you're if you're at the throat chakra and you're wanting to move past it, at this point in time, you need to be practicing your truth. You need to stay in alignment with that.
Skills.
Your assertiveness. Mm-hmm. The thing about also going through your spiritual journey is that you can't just be on when you want to.
Right.
You can't have these boundaries and this newfound love for yourself, but then wake up and be like, oh, it's just so hard today. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Because again, the universe is going to give you you're a mirror. If you stand in the mirror and you wave, that's what the universe is literally doing back to you.
Yeah.
The exact instant. It does not take thought to create. It takes intention, which means being, which means before you've even had a thought, you've already created.
Yeah, manifestation.
So it's so important that you embody what you're trying to be instead of pretending to be that person, because it won't be.
Full trust. Just I tell people, they're like, I have $100 in my bank account, and I chuckle and I'm like, I say, I swear, I promise you, you're going to be okay. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, I promise you, has the universe ever taken you off the cliff and been like, bing? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, it's always comes in the right time.
It's that fight or flight
Yeah.
where we almost get blinded, where we're like, oh, there are no wolves chasing me right now.
No.
Like I'm not running.
No.
I don't have to
We'll
run.
create through COVID, through whatever, all this, social media, all the stuff that's going on with the government stuff, are creating those episodes, and we just need to awaken and realize they can't harm us.
Yeah.
They can't harm us. There's enough of us. They can't harm us.
And really the only impact that you want to make is one of love anyway. So it's like once you realize you have all this power, you're like, I'm a source of infinite unconditional love. Like when you realize how much power that actually has, you don't want to do anything negative to people. What you want to do is get them, you know that you putting them or keeping them in that state is actually hurting you back. So why would you do that?
Right. Exactly. Because I studied Chinese medicine. If you hold on to anger and see what it does to your body. Literally.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on to resentment.
I'm pretty sure my ex got a heart condition because of that.
Yeah. Hold on to
dead ass. I was with two guys who got heart conditions, and I'm pretty sure.
Hold on to anxiety. You've got
I'm a powerful
arthritis. Hold on to. I mean, it's tied. There's a great Gaia show called Emotions. I highly recommend it. It talks all about the connection between our feelings and our emotions. It's fascinating, but it requires. I always say to my clients, I'm like, in between sessions, study. I am an addict in recovery, but it's, changes often to certain things, but I don't want to listen to music. I want to study. I want to keep learning. I want to know, there's so much out there. It's like, it boggles my mind when someone's like, I really want this. And it's like, okay, that's fine. You give them all your all. And it's like, so did you read Anthony DeMello? Wasn't that great? And then it's like, that's too long. It's like, it's okay. Let him move out.
Right.
And it took a long time to get there because I was like, but I really want. And then my teacher told me, she said, it's not your job to wake someone up. Anthony DeMello, the first thing he says is like, it's not your job. And please don't do it. Because if you try to, you're going to get pushed back.
Yeah.
Not your job. That, when they're ready, they're ready. But, when you've got this, you really want to share it.
And I think it goes back to, I think everybody wants it. It's ego. It's that fear of the unknown that keeps so many of us from exploring the spirituality.
False evidence appearing real. Love it.
I love it. It really is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
And so when we're in this fear of change, of uncertainty, because a lot of this takes faith. And that's something that I've had to learn through experience. No religion actually taught me what it was like truly. Now I understand faith and religion because of my experience, which is the most beautiful gift that the universe ever gave me. But I understand now because you get to a point where it's like, okay, in the lower stages, you're in such a low vibrational state that you might watch something on TV that could kind of bump you up, that could get you thinking, right? But once you get to a point, like once we're at the third eye.
Yeah.
once you get to these levels, you have to seek it out.
Yeah.
And you only, when you're in these cycles of trying to grow through these vibrational points, or these energy centers,
Right.
when you're trying to grow through them, you really have to be so vulnerable.
Yeah.
You have to be so vulnerable and so ready and so willing and so open that it's scary. Because like I said, once you get to it, once you know it, if you don't want to act that way, you have to actively choose to not act in a higher vibrational state that you know you're capable of.
Right.
So it's like once you reach a certain potential,
it's your moral code.
And then it's hard. And then it's hard to see yourself not live out the potential that you know you can.
You can't be a jerk. You just can't.
Well, and to be honest,
you can't be mean.
I feel like part of this podcast, like I did the podcast originally, and then I took some time off, and to be honest, like that's a whole nother conversation, because I learned a lot during that time, and I had to take time off. So I've learned through my own experiences that once you get to these higher levels, you have to practice actively having faith in this process. Right? You have to have faith that what you're going to open yourself up to is always going to be for your betterment.
Yeah, and stay in the present moment. You have to know that and trust that the universe is going to guide you.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because faith requires you to believe before there's any proof. And I swear to God, I didn't get that from religion. I got that from literally working through this and coming to realize that what am I freaking missing? Yeah. I'm missing the faith that I have, that I should be having in myself, in the universe.
To believe that I am good enough. I am.
Right.
I'm good enough.
And to believe that the universe does want me to win. Yeah. Why? Here's something that of course, listen, I was in the Cayman Islands in the water just vibing, and I look over at David and Gabby and I'm like, if we believe that one moment of our lives happens for a reason, just one, even the tiniest thing where you get up to the red light, turns green, you're like, well, happens for a reason, then you have to believe that every single other moment in your life happens for a reason.
Make me cry. Yes. Yes.
You and
I've seen it happen.
But isn't it beautiful? Once you're able to fully accept that, you live in this world of bliss where like something that happens,
timed.
right?
Even you may get a ticket. It's perfectly timed to teach you a lesson, to be more.
It's beautiful.
Everything is intricately planned, teaching you to become your highest version of yourself. You know, don't pay your taxes fine for years, but you'll catch up, and that'll be the lesson you need to get you. I mean, everything has a purpose. Everything.
It does. And I also think that we think so in the confines of 100 years, right? Or the amount of time that we have on Earth. But when you really think about it, it's like you're infinite.
Right.
So it's like the lessons you're learning here, it's like maybe it was a speeding ticket. Maybe it was but the lessons that you're learning, that you're continuing to learn are so much greater than the manifestation of the ticket itself. You know, it's like on a vibrational plane, that means something so different. There's so much more than just the physical ticket.
Listen, the hits, the dark, that's the teacher.
Yes.
How would I know patience if I didn't come from a home of impatience?
Right.
How would I know self-love if I didn't get the rejection?
Right.
So don't look at it as the bad. Look at it as a teacher.
It's an opportunity.
Your enemies are your greatest teacher. So look at everyone as a teacher. Come in and be like, I get to practice patience. I get to practice, compassion. I get to practice all these things. And I'm a nut in therapy. I'm like, this is exciting. And your teachers just come in. They're like, no, it's my ex-husband who wants to hurt me. I'm like, no. I'm like, this is a teacher. And I'm going to show you. And I'm like, kind of feeling the excitement. But it's really exciting because I know that once they get over that hill, self-love is coming, because they'll realize I never needed him. I'm not going to no longer will I get into a needs-based relationship. I need you to need me to feel needed. No, we are two separate people with our own responsibility to find our own love. And when we come together, we don't need each other. We want each other.
And again, the beauty of understanding unconditional love for yourself is that you're able to give it to others. You can't learn. It's hard to learn it the other way. There's teachers that'll help you connect with that emotion. There's teachers that are there to help you learn what that feeling is like. But for you to create unconditional love in yourself, you have to first do it for yourself. Yes. There's no way to create it outside of you before. So that is it's just love is such an integral part of it all. It's just it is. It's all it is.
It's so easy because it's like we are the childlike. It's just go look at a little child. That's who we are. We've just been conditioned. All it is peeling it away and being like, That's right. I'm still just a little girl that wants to bead on the weekends,
Yeah.
or get with my daughter and play little games.
No, and that's a beautiful part.
Yeah.
Once you get to this point, you realize that you are all of that at
Yeah,
once. At
all
any
of it.
point in time, you are everything you will ever always be.
We just take ourselves so serious.
Yeah.
Like, so serious.
So it's
lighten up.
Just
do your best.
Right. If you just let yourself be, who would you actually be? You know, there's so much of we should, we could, we should be doing this. Why?
Right.
It's like
Exactly.
we don't take that time.
Exactly.
So if you're in a so when we're here at the third eye, we're identifying with I am the self. This is a mastery level. This is a really high vibrational state.
So this is
this is God
pineal
absorption.
gland, the
Yes.
Third eye.
Exactly.
The sight without seeing.
Right. This is you now have more connection to source. You're starting to identify
You're
with
past this 3D
one
world.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Understanding. It's that feeling of like, I wonder if there's an officer down the street. It just feels like this knowing, almost like this. Do you ever get that, like this knowing? Like, I feel a wave of something's coming in. So there's times where you're like, I bet there's a police officer down the street, and then sure enough, there is one.
All the time.
Right.
All the time.
That's your inner guidance talking.
Yeah.
Or that small, like, maybe I shouldn't go here tonight. Maybe it's not a good idea, but we don't listen to it. That's the one speaking.
And it's crazy because, again, the more you listen to it, the more it'll talk, right?
Yeah.
And I know for me, when I was kind of moving out of my relationship, which I think was the most emotionally turbulent time that I've ever had in my life. So it obviously was we were talking a little bit about like how you kind of go through the spiritual journey, what could incite something like that. And a lot of times it is a traumatic event.
Yeah.
And remember that trauma is whatever your greatest trauma has been is your greatest trauma.
Yeah.
You cannot compare trauma to other people's trauma and say, well, mine is lesser and I shouldn't be experiencing to this degree. And I'm talking to myself because I do it all the time. It's really easy to gaslight yourself into feeling that your trauma is not valid enough because other people have gone through more difficult things. But your trauma is your trauma.
Yeah.
Whatever you've experienced, you also have to know is not just a singular event. Every single thing is interconnected.
Yeah.
So while something affects you, it's not just affecting you because of now. It's affecting you because of everything else that could have been associated with that is now coming up.
There's this idea that, throughout life, we're going to have big T's and little T's, meaning the bigger T's might be sexual abuse, physical abuse, but the little T's are maybe your parents, never saw you when they come home, or being maybe bullied a little bit, the drips. It doesn't matter. We all have little T's, and some people might have big T's, but those little T's can add up.
Yeah.
And it's just being ignored or whatever those are. Those are traumas too.
Right.
So it's big T, little T, but they are still
traumas. And I think that is a big point where things can really shift for people is really being able to embrace that. Once we get past third eye, we're now talking crown chakra.
Okay.
Which is above technically the physical body, correct?
That's the connection of the spirit coming into. They talk about top of the head. It's receiving. It's really where you feel completely in alignment. And this is gonna sound kind of weird, but sometimes I'll be in a session, and we'll be struggling through something, trying to understand something, and I'll just feel like this tingle on top of my head. This sounds crazy or whatever, and it's almost like a message that's like, yep, you're right on. You're like, it's almost confirmation that you're on, because the sensation, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's almost like yes, I got it. It's like confirmation.
Like I'm in it.
Right, because you feel just it's complete alignment. Of course, you go off, back on. Yeah. But it's a neat feeling. That's higher, of course, a higher level of consciousness. But it's really through just self-love and compassion. Yeah. And it's just and
allowing yourself. If you can love yourself unconditionally, that means you allow yourself to be. That means that you respect the sensations, right? And you respect the sensations that go on in your body enough to listen. So now you're able to get to a point where you feel that tingling, and you're not you're able to even hear it because
you're going past the five senses,
right? And if you're able to see yourself unbiasedly and be open-minded to anything that is possible, because if it is possible for you, then it is part of your human experience.
Absolutely.
So there is nothing. Ooh, that gave me chills. That gave me chills. If it is happening to you as part of your human experience, there's no reason for you to think that it is something negative. Remember, there is no bad or good. It's just right. There is light, and then there's lack of light.
Right.
And in order to illuminate a place, we just need to let more light in. And when you become a source of light, you can do that for the people you care about, for the communities you care about, for the world in general. So again, I think this all really ties back into you have to understand and learn the importance of putting yourself first, learning who you are, being able to be vulnerable enough
and that the
open
struggle
enough.
is the journey.
Yes, and transparent enough to say, look at everything that I am, lay it all out, and love it unconditionally. Love it for all you are.
Laugh, love all of it. Just
one of my favorite things is so funny. It's like I love cellulite. Yeah. I love my cellulite because
it's who you are.
Well, and it's like,
it's okay.
Right. And then giving into the whole duality, it's like I have cellulite, but my legs are also so strong.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I can be soft and I can be, you know, I can be multiple things.
I fell out with my father. I have the longest second toe. It's so funny, it runs in the family. And I remember in high school, people were like, it's as long as a pinky. And it's like, you know what? I love my toe.
It reminds me of my family. It's hilarious. It's also... You are also past the point of those lower vibrational frequencies where you feel like your body identifies who you are. You're so much more transcended past that.
And just on a final note, we've got to teach our girls today.
Oh,
please, we've got to please take them off. We've got to teach our girls today their beauty is unique to themselves, and comparing themselves on all the social media stuff. We really have to. I
think so. Moving forward, all of my training since pretty much my own spiritual awakening. I don't want to call it an awakening. It's almost like a second awakening. The way that I experienced my spirituality over the past year has been like a rebirth. I would really consider it that, because even when I think about like my life, I think about almost like back to that point. I almost don't even think about the time before that. It feels like a story. It's so strange. So now that I'm in this new phase, I do identify a lot with these higher vibrational states. I feel that I have been in these, especially after DMT. That shit was crazy. But I definitely got to that point where it's like singularity. I felt what it was like to be of nothing and of everything at the same time. And it's such a beautiful, peaceful place to be. Am I there all the time? Absolutely not. Because we're in a world that is constantly tugging at our ego. And everywhere we turn, they're fighting for our attention, and they're fighting for us to fear change.
Absolutely.
So we're in a state where we have to master ourselves to such a higher degree, but we're also so much more capable with so many more guides and so many more people sharing their experiences.
And then as we come together, we become light workers as examples. It's not our job to wake people up, but they're attracted to your energy.
Yeah.
And and I could see in your channel, they're attracted to
thank you.
But you're honest. You're like eating food. I love it. I love it. And you're just so real and authentic, and that's what people like.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, I think that people like it because they're afraid to be it.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, I feel so much, I feel comfort in knowing that you're also human too, because I try to not be human.
Yeah. Well, I commend you, because I'm still shaking. To see how you blossomed. It's truly amazing.
I really appreciate that.
You have been an inspiration.
Oh my gosh, Sally.
Seriously.
That means the absolute world to me, because I really, really, truly believe that you came into my life when I was not needing just a therapist. I really was needing a literal guide.
Yeah.
I was literally needing, and I had a moment with my spirit guides where I was like, and this was a little bit after you and I started talking and everything, and I was just like, I need a guide. Like, why don't I have a spirit guide? Like, I'm going through all this stuff. Like, why don't I get any direction? And literally grabbed me by the throat, slapped me, and was like, we sent you freaking Sally twice. We sent you her twice.
Wow. I didn't know they said that.
Well, I was like, no, duh. I have guides here.
Right, yes,
I have guides here. And the more that we help each other, and the more something that I experienced through my breakup, talking about women. And I think that a huge part of this podcast and my training moving forward is helping heal the relationship that we have amongst women. Because for so long, we have been turned against each other to the point that we believe it's normal.
Yeah.
And we believe that we are the ones that
we hate
we
each other.
Yeah.
We tear each other down.
And then when we really look at it, and when I really think about it, I'm like, we have this systemic fear of each other, of forcing each other down, and
competition and plot. We've got to come together,
right? And granted, I truly believe that the direction that I'm going with all my training, the direction that I'm going with what I want to be doing for literally the rest of my life, is to help people realize their truest potential through first understanding how to love themselves.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think there's any way.
There is no other way.
No, and it's funny because, I mean, not to get super into my own little story with that, but it really was trial. It was my own journey that I had to experience in order to now get people to go through the same journey. And I wanted to rush the whole process.
Of course.
And every time I go, boom.
Of course. Every time I try to run out, I'll tell you, Andre's back here, my best friend. He'll tell you, he's like, slow down. I'm like, I'm going full speed ahead. And it's like, you can hit the wall. I'm like, bam. I'm like, all
Andre's
right.
like walking just behind you, like,
Exactly.
I'll catch up with her in a second.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
He's always like,
Let's
patience.
like the turtle in the
patience.
hair.
And I'm like, patience. Patience. I know that's one of my lessons I
Oh,
came down
me
here.
too.
Boy, oh boy.
Me too.
So.
But long story short, Sally's going to be on the podcast a lot moving forward.
thank you.
I want to do a lot more events. I want to do a lot of more community building with you. I think that we have an opportunity to reach a lot of women,
Me too.
a lot of people. We talked a lot. We should do definitely things geared towards men specifically. I know that, like you said, that there's men out there that really are looking for healing and they don't know who to turn to. Because unfortunately, it's almost more stigmatized than for women.
For men out there.
Yeah, so we definitely want to do that, but I think we've introed enough for one podcast.
Forever, so.
I know. So on that, I'm gonna leave you. Oh, you want to leave them there? Whoa, I'm glitching now.
Like
do you want to leave them your
out?
socials? Yeah. What's your Instagram? It's
So my website's www.lifecounseling.orlando.com.
Okay.
And then all my social media is on that.
Okay, perfect.
And you can, I'm not really active, like, I don't
listen, but she will be. I'll be sending her clips. Don't worry.
I'm a little fearful. Isn't that funny? Like, I come so far and I'm like, I'm shy of the camera. I'm like, oh.
Listen, life would be boring if we didn't have more work
It's like
to do.
back of the line.
Yeah.
Like who do you think you're so special you can't get in front of a camera?
Right.
Isn't that funny?
It is.
It's like humble yourself.
And
So.
it's funny because I think a huge reason why I'm called to do this podcast is because it hits every fear I could ever have.
Yes.
It really does.
It does.
And so I'm here just like, if it's a calling, it's a calling. I can no longer avoid it. I go into depressive episodes if I don't do it.
Right.
I just need the universe is in control at this point.
But I do want to say, so I do have an office with therapists that work with me, and there's a phenomenal therapist, Stephanie, myself, and a couple others that are willing. So if anybody hears this and they want to really do the work, give us a call, and just reach out, and we're here.
And we'll have all your information
I just
up.
want to be of service. That's our calling.
Yeah, I'll make sure to have all your information up. You can also find her on my Instagram. I'm sure we're gonna be posting a ton of
You
clips.
better post your stuff on mine, but blow it up.
We're gonna be everywhere. We need to get this information out for everyone. So lots to come.
Yep.
But for today's episode, thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Sally.
You're welcome.
Thank
It's
you
a pleasure.
for our first little episode.
I love you.
Tears were cried.
I know.
Emotions were high.
Yes,
Lots to talk about. Lots to sink
Yeah.
in. But if you want to connect with us, if you have any questions, if you feel called in any way and want to explore any of this, we are here. We're here for you. Aside from that, thank you guys. You can find us on our socials if you want to connect with us.
Yep.
That's where you can find us. If anything drew any interest to you, or if you want to know more about it, if you don't know where to start, if you're worried about it, if you're nervous about it, we're here for you. That is literally what we are on this planet for.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
Reach out. Don't think we're just saying it. We mean it.
Like legitimately. It's what we were literally created for.